Hi, Code Monkey here. Sometimes there are games that we're making that we're really passionate about. It's our own idea and we're really into it, and those are great times. But there are other times when we just have to make a game for a client or employer, and we want to do that as quickly as possible so we can get back to the games that we like to do. And this is an example of a game that I sold to a client sometime last year that he resold to one of his clients. So I'm going to show you how to make it. It's a very simple game. It's not going to win any awards, but it does get the bills paid. And it took about less than an hour to put together the prototype for the client to look at. So let's get started.
Code Monkey, get up, get coffee. Code Monkey, go to job.
So I've been asked by a few people to show more features of the Ultimate Game template, and I thought the best way to do that was simply to build a game. Now, this is a take on an actual game I built and sold to a client, and he sold it to his client, which was a bank in Hong Kong. So I'm using a Singapore background instead, and that is the image night right there. I've got a face PNG, which comes in the template anyway, but I'm going to use this for the game. A coin, a bomb, and a title background. And the name of the game is simply Don't Click the Bombs. You're given a short amount of time to click as many coins as you can. The face doesn't give any points at all. It just gets in the way. And the bombs, of course, if you click one of those, the game is over. It's a very simple game, but it is a common type of game that clients ask for. So the first thing we need to do is go to Scene Load and load the images. And in the PNG array here, I will add everything that is a PNG, such as the bomb and the coin. Bomb 64 is that name, and the BG title. And the Singapore background is a JPEG, so I will put that in the JPEG array, night. Now in scene title, I'll change the name of the game to Don't Click the Bombs. And I'll change the key of the background to BG title. Great, don't click the bombs. And if I want to put a bomb right there in the middle, I can just turn on this grid here. And then say this place image, bomb 64 is the key. And the position, we'll put it right there in the middle at 60. And make it, let's say, 25% of the game's width. Let's have a look at that. It's a little big and pixelated, so I'll turn it to 20%. Now my title screen is sorted. And I'm going to go ahead and in scene load down here in the create function. This scene starts scene title. I'm going to change that to scene main. So every time we make a change, we don't have to go back to the title screen. I'm going to go ahead and open the developer console, set the background. Now I just need to start dropping bombs. And I want to use physics for this game. So I'm going to go into index and you'll find a commented out bit of code there. If you want to use physics in your game, just copy this and paste it after parent there. And I'm going to format the code. Back in scene main, make a function called drop bomb. And we're going to drop the bomb starting at the top, so somewhere between 0 and 10. So let position equals, I'm going to use the phaser built-in function, phaser math, between 0 and 10. Let bomb equals this place image, bomb 64 being the key. Position is the position variable we just created, and 10% of the game. And put true on the end of that to be able to add the physics to it. I'll just call that function here, this drop bomb. Great, it has added it to that. And I'm going to call that on a timer. I have a couple of snippets here defined in my editor. This time add event, delay of seconds. I'll say every 1 second for now. The callback function is this drop bomb, bind this, and loop being true. But it's not always going to be a bomb. It could be a face or a coin. So let's let type equals phaser math between 0 and 2, because we have 3 elements. And we'll define those as let key array equal bomb64, face, and coin. And then let key equal key array type. And I'll change the variable here to bomb to simply object, because it might not be a bomb. It might be one of these others. There's a face, a coin, a bomb, and right now they're all going on each other. But of course, once we start dropping them, that won't happen. So we can either set velocity or gravity on this. If we set gravity, they will start falling slow and speed up. So I usually like to use velocity on this, but let me show you the difference. Object body, set velocity y, and we'll say a speed of 100. And if we do gravity instead, object body, set gravity y, comment out the velocity, then they start slow and start falling faster. Now we've got to get rid of those after they go off the screen, or otherwise we'll have a lot of objects defined. So I'm going to add a group here. This object group equals this, and because we're using physics, this physics add group. And we have to add an object to the group before we set any physics on it. If I put it here, we'll be fine. This object group, add object. But if I put this line of code down here after we set the gravity on the object, they won't move at all because all physics have been taken off. So I'll put that back, and I'm going to loop through those children. And I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to make the window scene equals this, which means I'm going to expose this class, the scene main, to the console over here. And I don't recommend this for production, but it's great for testing. So scene, object group, children, entries. And that is where all of our bombs and everything are now. And as you can see, now it's gone up to 14. But it is a good way to get the autocomplete on a lot of the phaser classes and everything if you're curious about that. Object group, this object group, children, entries, for each. And then we add a function. And if you want to use the parentheses and arrows, that's fine. But I'm going to use an old-fashioned function, child. And then we need to bind that to the scene. And if child y is greater than this game height, and game height is something that's built into base scene. Game height equals this sys game config height. So it's a shortcut to get the height of the game, because the template is already set up to be able to expand to different sizes of devices and screens. That's why we're using the grid method. but I'll put it back on desktop now. If the game y is greater than the game height, then child destroy. Now, sometimes I'm in the middle of this loop and it says the child does not exist, which doesn't seem to make sense, but I think that this entries object is not getting updated in time. It still has a memory of that child. Everything hasn't been updated, and it loops through, and I hit an error. So simply if child right here to make sure that the child exists. And that is destroy, not destory. And for testing purposes, I'm going to divide that by 2. So you should see the bombs and faces and everything be destroyed about halfway down. Yeah, there it is. So we know that they're going to be removed. Now we need to make those objects clickable. I'll make a function here, clickObj, and it's going to pass in the pointer, and it's going to pass in the object of whatever we click, because I'm going to use this input on game object down. This click object bind this. But you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to turn that interactive. Object set interactive. Object destroy. There. Now I'm going to turn off the grid here. And I'm going to add in a little effect here. You can find it in the cheat sheet. And we're going to starburst. Actually, color burst would be better for this. I'll copy that basic effect, and I'll put it over here in the click object. And this is already set up to take the pointer here, X and Y. So wherever you click that object, it will be there, wherever the mouse is. If you want to change exactly where the object is, we can use object X and Y. Now I do need to import that. Import color burst from common effects color burst. Great. Now I'll add a sound effect to it, and we need to load those. And let me check on that. Assets, audio, boom, coin, and pop. And the coin is a wave, and the other two are PNGs. So I go back to scene load, and I have a wave array, coin, boom, and pop. Back in scene main, when we click the object, and whatever the key is, I'm just going to stick that in to the object as the key. I'll put it on object type equals key. There might be another way to get that key, but I can just put it in there real quick to save some time. So if object type is equal to face, then this play sound pop. And if object type is equal to coin, and I do have a problem here because I'm using coin as both an image and as the sound. So I'm going to change that to coin sound, and I need to change the name of the file here, coin sound, because it will be loading a sound and an image, and they'll both have the same key because the template just uses the file name for the key. So we're in scene main, place coin sound, this place sound. Okay. And if it's a bomb, I probably should have put this on a switch statement, but anyway, if object type equals bomb 64, then this play sound boom, and we can also then do the game over. And we'll deal with that in just a moment. Great. And I'm also going to take off the debug over here. Debug equals false, so it looks a little better there. Now I just need to put in a timer and a score box. It puts in this sound panel, but unfortunately every time I'm using the UI that's being destroyed. So I need to check on if object type. It's just because I just had it globally, anything I click come down here and destroy. So to save time again, let's see if object type 2 equals falling. So if object type 2 doesn't equal falling, then return, because otherwise it destroys all of the UI that's built into there. There we go. So we can turn on and off the sound effects or background music as we need to, and we can go ahead and add the background music. I usually comment that out, and it's simply called background music here. So I'll copy that and load that into scene load, and that is an MP3. So put that into the MP3 array, and then scene title, you'll see here uncomment to turn on music, and it's already got that key background music, which I use a lot. And I'll go back over here and go back to scene title just to turn on the music. And then it can be turned off there. And also the sound effects won't play if that is disabled by the user as well. Okay, I'm going to turn that back to scene main and go back over here, and under the make UI, let SB equal new score box. And we're going to pass in the scene as this. And I think there is a text style as well. And open up the score box and look at all of that. So yes, there is a text style that you can pass in, but it defaults to score. And if you haven't seen about the text styles yet, I've done that in another video, but basically you open up the text styles file and you can set all kinds of pre-made text styles, purple, toast bar, and such that you have in here. And if you want a new one, I just generally copy one and give it a new key and then change all the information in there. But I go over that more in another video, and I just go ahead and get this game made real quick. So scene main, make UI, score box equals this scene text, and this place at index, and we'll put that at 3, and SB being the score box. And I've got to import that. Common comp score box. And while I'm here, I may as well get the clock as well. There it is. It is rather big, and you can simply go into the text styles and reduce that in size, but I'll leave it as it is right now. Now let's add in the clock next to the score box. And if you go in the cheat sheet, you'll see there's a mention of a clock here. I'm going to copy that code, go over here. This clock equals new clock scene this, place it index, and we'll say 7. And if you open up the clock class, you can just search for it if your code editor allows that. You can see there is a lot of information in here: start clock, stop clock, set clock. I'm going to use that one right now. This clock, set clock, and we'll put it at 30 seconds. I'm going to add a callback here to the config, the object that we pass into the constructor of the clock. Callback this time up, find this. And I'll make that function down here. Time up, console log, time is up. And for testing, let's put it at 5 seconds, and we have to start the clock. So this clock, start clock. 4, 3, 2, 1, and time is up. So we see that over there in the console. So for now, whenever the time is up and they click on the bomb, I'm simply going to go to the game over screen, this scene, start, scene over. And I will put that up here if they click the bomb as well. Now, normally if the game is over, we want a lot more flash or something happens and then we go to the game over screen. Now we want to give a point if the player clicks a coin. And if you go back to the cheat sheet, you'll notice that there are some events in here that you can dispatch or emit. And in some of the earlier versions, this might have said event dispatcher in it, but you just need to change that to emitter for it to work. And this is the one I want here, this emitter, emit up points 1. And it upped the score. Now, there are some more in here as well for the clock. Now, you can access things in the clock directly, calling the function set clock, add time, reset clock, stop clock. Or you can dispatch one of these events. Maybe it's down somewhere in another component or something that is a child of a child of a child. That's why I put these in here. So you can either say this clock stop clock or this emitter emit stop time. And you'll want to stop that time if they've clicked a bomb already. So I'll paste that there and I'll paste it down in the time up. And it should go ahead and stop itself when the time is up, but just to be sure, I'm keeping it in there. And the timer here, this timer 1 equals this time at event, because even if we go to scene over, that will still play. And I'll just change this time up to game over so we can keep everything in the same place. And I'll say this game over here and return. And in the game over function, this timer 1 remove. So I don't know exactly how long that I've spent on this game so far. I think I've spent less than an hour, and though it would need some more work before going to production, it's already good enough to send to a client as a prototype. And if I can spend less than an hour making a game for that, and then maybe 3 or 4 more hours putting in the extra things that they want, then I can get that out the door, get paid, and be done and move on to the next project. I'm going to change that back to scene title in scene load there. And great, that's ready to show a client. With a few more hours of work, it would be good enough for production. And the last thing I'm going to show you is how to build that. So it's ready to put on a website. I want to use the command npm run script build. And then that's going to create a folder in your main folder called dist for distribution. There it is. And I've got a bundle min, which is the entire game, and index HTML. Now to assemble this, let me go ahead and open up a local web server. And I've got a folder here already called test2. I'll make a new folder called bombs. And you can use web space for this as well. I'm going to copy the index and bundle. I usually rename that when I bring it into the folder, but we can leave it as it is for now. I'm going to grab my assets and grab the scripts folder. And the reason I do it this way as opposed to bundling everything together is because I can go ahead and upload this to my client site. And then the only thing I have to do usually is to replace this bundle min here. And so generally I number it 1, 2, 3 and such so that there won't be any caching when I upload the new version. So I'm going to start that web server now. And then I check over here in the console for anything that's not found. Game style CSS. Bring that over. And now I've got a game that I can send to my client and make any changes they want and get paid. And that's the way I do it. If you want to use this template yourself, you can find it at phasergames.com. I've got lessons on games you can put together with it at williamclarkson.net. But if you don't use it, you can still see how putting together your own stuff can save you a lot of time. And the faster that you can get the game made, the faster that you can get paid. If you're making your own games, that's great. It'll still save you a lot of time, so you don't have to put a lot of things together like the buttons and sound media management and things of that nature. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful.